good friend of the family, good friend of Roland and Mildred's, and he's going to do a eulogy in commemoration of Grandpa Roland. Thank you, Nestor.
Good afternoon. Roland Henry Engele, born June 21st, 1923, died August 29th, 2023. You're doing your math? Yeah. You will know that that gentleman was 100 years old on the 21st of June. A rare accomplishment. Yes, I'm Nestor Trask, and I'm Roland's friend. We go back quite a few years, and he was like my second family to me the last year at least. So where do I start when I want to talk about Roland? Well, some of the things that I heard from family as I chatted with them and asked them for help. And so I'm going to list some of the things that I heard. A hard worker, dedicated, he loved the land, always concerned about his family, a caretaker of all things that he was responsible for. He was an avid hunter, especially big game. Practiced yoga and other physical activities. And I could go on and on because I spent a little bit of time asking. But that may lead you to think that Roland was a man who missed out on many of the fine things in life. And so let's talk about Roland. He was a family man, the husband of Mildred, who was his right hand on the farm, whether that was on the tractor, in the garden, the yard, or in Mildred's flower patch. Together, they adopted 4 children, son Vernon, now deceased, and his wife Valerie, still living, Daniel, daughter Geraldine, deceased, and husband Joe, deceased, and daughter Paulette. And he is survived by grandchildren and great-grandchildren. And I don't know how many times when I came to visit him, I heard things like, "That's my pride and joy," even above farming. Life on the farm near Carmel was so special to the Engele family. Each one had their chores. Roland particularly enjoyed nature, and he loved planting trees. One of the things I promised that I would do would take him out there to show me all the trees that he had planted. Apparently he's got quite a grove. Both Roland and Mildred were an integral part of the parish in Carmel, and as a result, a part of Mount Carmel. Roland was active in all aspects of Mount Carmel in most celebrations. In his spare time, Roland loved to sing. He belonged to St. Peter's Choir. He had a beautiful voice. And I have to say that the last year, that changed. He tried so hard, but just wasn't coming anymore. Sports was really important to Roland. Can you imagine a Blue Jay fan? In fact, Mildred and Roland made a trip to see a game. And would you believe he caught a foul ball? And the family still has that as a souvenir of that famous game. He also loved golfing and curling, sports that he continued well into the 90s. but finally he had to give it up because of failing health. He was not only involved in sports and singing and being part of the church in Mount Carmel and all those other things I mentioned. He also took classes. He tried to bring his knowledge of a lot of things. And one of the classes that he was in was the lay presided program, and they both became instructors for the Abbey and the parish. And this one I spent a lot of time with him. He loved Scripture. And he was very well versed in Scripture, all areas. I guess we can say he was a man of great faith. And then as I wrote that, I thought, no, I would have to say that he was a holy man. Almost every time we were together, our discussions always ended onto that side, and the beauty he saw in life and those around him through the mercy of God. I said to him one day, you really are into this thing, like I have a little bit of Scripture, but boy, you... And he said, well, I have to give credit to my parents. They were good teachers. And I had 3 brothers as priests, he said. And so it kind of rubbed off a little bit. Roland was number 9 in the family of 12 in the Engele family. So he had a lot of influences around him all the time. He was also a social person, and I guess that's where I came into it. He loved if you came to visit him and really didn't want you to go. He loved his family, and he made that quite clear every time I visited. He loved being with people. To help liven up his social life, he made beer and wine. And he was generous about sharing the fruits of his labor. If he didn't have any, he'd say, Justin will fix them up on Thursday. A man with a great sense of humor. And many of us didn't see that initially. But he had some really good one-liners that he pulled out and used on a moment's notice. The thing I think I found most fascinating about Roland was that he was a man who at the age of 100 still had a great desire to learn. And every visit I had with him, he'd say, sit down. You want a wine? And not only was he knowledgeable in Scripture, but in almost every area, no matter what we talked about or he talked about, he seemed to know so much about that. He was a source of discussion at Maria's place, the place where he resided the last few years. And he loved living at Maria's and getting involved in the discussions with the other residents there. He lived to be 100, and on June 21st, he threw a party. The hall was not quite as full as this. And he said, you can't take it with you. And so I want to treat my friends and family to a party. And so we had a beautiful evening with him. I came to see him the day after his 100th birthday. And I said, so how's the old guy that's 100 plus 1 day? He said, working on 200. Rolly had a good life, and physically and mentally he was very well till the end. The week before his death, he started developing great pain in his back, for which he was treated and eventually had to be taken to a hospital where he received the sacrament of the sick and ready to start his 200th in peace. Rest in peace, Roland. On your card, there is a poem there that I want you to take home and read it at your leisure. I really was inspired by it because it spoke to me about Roland. A beautiful life came to an end. He died as he had lived, everyone's friend. He was always loving, thoughtful, and kind. What a precious memory he has left behind. Treasure him, God, in your garden of rest, for on our world, he was one of the best. Rest in peace, Roland.
Thank you very much, Nestor. That was beautiful. Grandpa, of course, was a good planner too, those thoughts and thinking of the future. At age 94, he gave me an inscription that he felt captured his feelings on his lifelong profession of farming, and he asked that it be shared at his funeral. So today I share these words with you that he wanted shared. To the very end of his life, Grandpa had farming in his blood. For Grandpa, there was nothing else. No other calling that had any more value, worth, or meaning than farming. He was as rooted in the black loam earth that he farmed as his crops were that he raised year after year. For him, farming wasn't a way of making a living or getting ahead financially. Farming was life. Farming gave him everything: food, clothing, shelter, hard work, leisure, love, children, along with grief, fear, danger, triumph, and hope. The only act of infidelity which he could have ever been accused and found guilty of was a love affair with Mother Earth, and yet she could dash his hopes, change his mind, and defeat his purposes. He loved her with a passion, and the greatest moments of triumph, his highest achievements, were the times when she would return a harvest so bountiful that the granaries could not hold it. This view may become coming off as a bit romantic, a bit flowered perhaps, yet there would be no music, no literature, no medicine, if first there were not farming. Farming is the guarantee, the security that gives us the time to pursue all else. Thank you, Grandpa. I'd like to close with thank yous on all who have brought this day together. Thank you very much to Father Colin, Father Lawrence, and Abbot Peter for a beautiful celebration and Mass. Thank you to the members of St. Augustine Parish as well for helping put this Mass together and being a community of worship that Roland and Mildred could be a part of for these last number of years. Thank you to all of the singers today, the Dale singers, Dale family singers, Norman Dewar, Dr. Junk, and all the accompanists that provided the very beautiful music today for the Mass. Thank you, Nestor, of course, for a very touching eulogy, and the Bella Vista for the delicious food. Thank you for preparing it. And a very, very heartfelt thank you to Maria Dumitrescu for the loving care she provided to both Roly and Mildred in the last years of their life. We are eternally grateful to you for this. What a legacy and what a life. 100 years. Roly will remain alive in our hearts, and we were all touched by his presence and are really much better for that. Thank you all for being here and also for being a very meaningful part of Roly's life. So please take your time to visit. There will be a burial following the lunch, and that will be at the Carmel Cemetery, and you're welcome to join.